So here's the bottom side of my Alpine 10-inch Type R self-enclosure. This comes from Alpine. It's a super slim pre-sealed prefab box with their 10-inch dual voice coil sub. This is the part that'll be facing down normally. There's the feet, their adjustable heights. Comes with a few different parts to figure out, better mounting options. I have to take this in consideration where your spare tire hook would normally go. It sticks up, so I have the legs, I think, as high as I can get them. It still rubs a little bit, but it comes with a protective speaker grill here, so the sub is fine. And then I had to cut out a piece of 1/4-inch plywood around in a certain shape here, so that in addition with the legs gets it flush to the top of here, but also keeps that from banging into it and making it rock back and forth. So I'll flip this back around in position now and show it to you. And then here was the place where I have it positioned in the spare tire well. And this is now obviously the bottom of the speaker. The way they get it such a thin mount is the speaker is actually sealed, but comes out flush to the top of the box instead of it being inside the box completely. And this is what I start to work with. And now I'm going to start working on this hard cover that's going to go over the whole hatch area. I'm going to have a piano hinge that goes along the back that'll mount it to the car body. And then the vision here is this whole area will be covered with a 1/2-inch piece of plywood that will raise up when I need to get access to this. And I'm going to figure out some things I'll store on the sides here. And then I have these two RV camper type of shocks. They'll be mounted in a way that it'll raise and lower the whole floor panel that I'm making. And then I haven't ordered them yet, but I'm looking at some different options I'm going to try to utilize this little bracket right here as a way to use as a lock, that when you push it down, it'll lock into that, because it's obviously going to want to constantly push up if you don't have a way to keep it secure. So yeah, let's get started. And this is the 36-inch black piano hinge, 1.2-inch thick. Got it off Amazon, and this is it right here. I had to cut it down and take a couple inches off of it to get it to fit right. If I had to do it over again, we'll see once this is done. I might have got one that was a little thicker this direction. So 1.2 inches must be the size when it's fully extended out. I was thinking that was going to be each half when it was closed, so I should have got one that was probably 2 inches, so it'd be 1 inch each half, just to help with mounting it to everything. But we'll see if this one works. I've already cut it, so there's no sending it back, but I'll let you know if I would have done something different, so you don't make the same mistake. And here I got a cardboard template. Took me a couple of pieces to get it right, but it's really just focusing on getting a nice spacing all the way around and follow the contours. I didn't have a piece quite deep enough, so I'll take this as template and then just add another 2 inches in that direction when I go to transfer this to the plywood or the particle board, and then get ready to cut it out. And I think that's turned out pretty good. Tried to make sure I had plenty of space around all the edges, because these are all kind of tapered panels. They're farther in at the bottom than at the top, so you can't have this too tight of a fit down here. When you go to raise it up, it'll hit otherwise. So hopefully I have enough space that it won't interfere towards the top here when I'm opening it. And all it took was my 20 volt circular saw. I used my jigsaw in a couple spots. I used a sander to smooth all the edges, and then to finish it off, I used my router over here to give myself a rounded edge on both the top and the bottom edges, so everything had a nice smooth finish. Well, I test fit that piece of board in here, got it exactly where I wanted it, and then I just took a strip of butyl and laid out right back behind where the board was laying. So now I know the spot where I need to mount the piano hinge. The hinge will be laying right in front of this, and then I'll get my holes marked for drilling. I'm going to use this as reference where the spare tire well curves up, and I'll know right at the top of the curve is the spot where I'll be needing to drill some holes from one end to the other. So I'm going to get under the car and take a look under there and make sure there's nothing in the way of where I need to drill some holes. And then in order to mount it to the car, I picked up a assortment of self-tapping screws. I'm going to use some of these shorter ones. Probably the shortest is a 1/2 inch. I'll have to get through a little bit of sound deadener in a few spots, but a 1/2 inch will probably work just fine, so that there's not much poking out from the bottom. So let's take a look under there and see if anything's going to be in the way. Okay, so here's the spare tire well, and where it starts to curve up to the top to the rest of the body floor, that's the line where I'm going to need to drill some holes. So looking over on the passenger side, there's really nothing in the way there. And as I get over, or sorry, that was the driver's side. As I get over to the passenger side, I do have to worry about the fuel lines over here. So I'm not gonna want to drill anything too close to the edge there. There's nothing about the filter that's up against. There's plenty of space around there where I'm not gonna have a screw go down that far. But there are a couple of lines right there that I'm gonna have to stay away from. And I'll have to measure, I think I'll have to measure from the middle point of the wheel well over to there to get an idea of where they're at. All right, so if I get my tape measure lined up with those fuel lines and I go over to the middle of the wheel well, it's about exactly 12 inches from the middle center of the wheel well over there. So just to be safe, when I get up above, I'll measure about 10 inches to 14 inches and just stay away from that whole area. Okay, so back up on the top side again, going from the center of the wheel well towards the passenger side. I'm gonna stay away from all of that area. It should be about right there, but I'll just stay away from all that. All right, so I drilled these two spots through, then I skipped all that. I drilled these two, and then I drilled these three. So I think that's all I'm gonna need for support. I'm not gonna drill into these areas where it dips down into this curve. I don't wanna warp this, and I don't really see a need to go out all the way to the very edge for those either. So all the spots I drilled are on top of the sound deadener, so everything will stay flat and level, and I don't warp the hinge. So from the passenger side, you can see I got 2 there. And then I've got 2 here towards the middle. And then I've got 1, 2, 3 on the driver's side. So 7 screws total, and none of them were anywhere near any sensitive areas that I could have drilled into. So a couple things to note here, some issues I've come across is in the back of these hatches, they're not an exact copy of the left side to the right side, the geometry and the shape of it. So you can see here, when this is pushed down, it was cut to match the panel. But when you try to raise it up, it now interferes with the side here, and it won't go up much further than that. And the problem is, if you can't raise this up far enough, you can't get the screws from the piano hinge screwed into the sheet metal, into the floor. You don't have enough room to get a screwdriver in there to screw them down. Not even a little bit inside of a adjustable socket. There's just no room. So I only have a couple of screws started by hand right now to keep working on it. But what I'm going to have to do is mark and notch out a little bit of the side of my board so that I can raise it up all the way straight up, basically 90 degrees or more from the floor, to be able to permanently screw it down. So that's one thing I've got to do before I can call this done. The next issue I came across, the 15-inch 22-pound is not long enough to, I mean, like right now it looks perfect. I'm perfectly happy with how it is when it's open, but when you go to shut it, it stops right here. It's got a long ways to go to become flat with the floor, and that's because I don't have a long enough shock here to where it can compress inside far enough to go all the way down. So today I got some in the mail. I've got still the 22-pound. I think the 22-pound is just fine. Right now I only have one attached, and it doesn't want to quite come up all the way on its own, but once I get 2 of them, it'll work just fine once I get both of them in here. And then I also now have gone up to the 20-inch long instead of 15-inch long. So I'm going to get this one off of here, get these other ones test fitted, figure out exactly where I need to screw them in, and I'm pretty sure we'll be good to go at that point. All right, that was easy to swap out, and it looks like everything's going to work just fine. It goes all the way down, and this is flush with the bottom. And then I still just have the one hooked up. Once I get them both hooked up, I think it'll come up on its own. And we'll get that one installed and then see how it's working out, and then we'll get everything permanently fixed in the bottom here. So this is my second set of struts. The first set was 15-inch. These are 20-inch. I'd like it to come up a little farther, so I think I'm going to try. The only other size I found bigger than this is a 23-inch strut that's meant for cabinets with these kind of brackets. I'm not going to get something that's made for automotive necessarily, because it won't have the right kind of connections to attach to the wood. But yeah, we're getting closer for sure. Just Just got to wait for another set and I'll return these.